Good morning from Europe. June 3, Wednesday, we'll be with you with the short market update. We're going to check together the latest financial, geopolitical, political, and economic data news together to see what is going on in the financial market, what's happening, what's happened, and what we can expect from the markets later today and next days. Sounds like nothing can stop the bulls. Last night again, Dow Jones, S&P 500, Nasdaq, and small cap, all of them, they closed. They just printed the new all-time high. Dow Jones in its highest level tested 51,369.61. Amazing number. S&P 500 uh, tested 7,621 almost, and Nasdaq 27,172 almost. Finally, small cap closed at with 0.9% gain. Nasdaq 0.03% gain, like flat, but still positive. S&P 500 0.13% and Dow Jones 0.45% higher. While in the future market, they are trading almost a flat, waiting for more news and update from ongoing negotiations from the uh, talks between Iranian and Americans. I'm telling the talks because it's not like negotiations, it's not like sitting on a table and negotiate. They are sending the message to each other from uh, some through the other countries and other uh, midliners, to kind of, you can say that's not negotiations. So that's the talk between going on, and still, anyhow, the situation is very critical and unclear. And the markets counting on this unclear, no. What market counts? Market says that, okay, we know at least that we are not going to have a war these days. That's what market can understand from these negotiations, these ongoing talks. This is while Israel still continues its advance in Lebanon, and there is no one and nothing can hold Benjamin Netanyahu back, hold him back from what he's doing there. Anyhow, the situation sounds like more attractive for the stock traders because they can understand, they can at least guess that, okay, these days it's not going to happen, the war. We will have the same situation for a little bit longer, most probably at least till end of the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup soccer World Cup. That's what market can understand it. That's why you can see the positive reaction. Even in the Asian market, that we had a very mixed market. Still, the Nikkei is gaining 3%. Kospi is trading flat, but on the other hand, in Australia also, the stock market is that the main index ASX 200 is up by almost 1%, while looking at on the other market, Hong Seng losing by 1.7%, Nifty in India 1.2%, FTSE 50 in China 2.2%, and crazy in Indonesia, the main index is losing almost 5%. While on the other hand, in Singapore, the stock, the SET is up by 1 point almost 3%. The situation says that the market is mixed reaction, but generally looking at at the stocks that you're trading, we can understand what's mostly moving the market is still the AI related companies and the stocks. So the stocks that they have more AI related the indices that they have, the more AI related companies and stocks and like that, they sounds like more interesting and attractive for traders and investors. That's what we can understand, which is leading the market. These indexes and these main stocks, they are leading the market. Especially looking at the South Korea. South Korea is a very good example for this development. However, it just sounds like after sharp rising that we had in recent days, time to slide for the short race, at least for the short period of the time. That's what's happening in the stock market. On the other hand, in the cryptocurrency market, we had a surprise, but it was a surprise for us. I don't think so. If you follow us, in recent days and weeks, recently we repeatedly say that Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market is not like it doesn't sound like an interesting market for investors and traders as now AI related companies sound like more interested and more profitable for the investors. On the other hand, I mean, on the other hand, which is the result of this point of view, we can see more money out from the ETFs, crypto ETFs, and more money in cash in to AI-related ETFs and AI-related stocks and companies. That's what's happening there. And also, we had a news that a strategy also sold part of its Bitcoins. Sounds like big companies also, they are selling they are selling at least part of what they had. The same situation we had in the Elon Musk, how many the bitcoins that Elon Musk owned, especially with the Tesla and SpaceX. They also sold part of their bitcoins. These data together and a higher risk in the market, on the other hand, can tell us that the situation is not good. When I'm talking about the higher risk, don't forget that the VIX still trading high at 17.64, stable. Again, I'm telling stable, but it's high. It's not the low number. That's why we can see the US bond yields increased to 4.47% again. That was 4.43 yesterday, and Japanese 10 years yields increased to 2.60, almost 3%. That was 2.5859. Just that just 24 hours ago. That telling us that the risk premium is still in a high in the market, which is again the negative news for the cryptocurrency, same as it is negative for the for the gold price and the silver price. That's why we can see gold and silver price are down almost 1%. Now the gold again trading slightly lower than $4,500, while the silver again is back under $75. On the other hand, for the oil and energy prices, the natural gas price is again $3.15, stable around this number, but WTI again up. We can see that around 97, 95, $96. 1.7% is up, while the Brent oil also is up by 1.6%, around 97 and $98. That can again tell us that the risk premium is still high. Looking at these numbers and the geopolitical tension, we can say that, okay, we should be slightly more careful about what's happening, but still there is nothing to say that, okay, the bigger trends generally what we have in the market, in all market. Still, there is a trend maker news is not out. And for now, still, we can trust the current trends in all markets that's happening. After yesterday update, let's check about the economic data. After yesterday update, the most important number that we had came from the Spanish labor market was not so good, better than previous month, but not so good. In United Kingdom, mortgage approval increased better, even though the money supply is lower, even though slower, even though the interest rates is still high, but the mortgage rate applications increased. While on the other hand, looking at the Eurozone, we can see the inflation for headline inflation increased by 3.2%, and core inflation increased by 2.5%. But what was the surprises? The surprise was in the headline inflation on the monthly base increased only 0.1%. But on the other hand, the core inflation on the annual scale from 2.2% increased to 2.5%. Why the core inflation is not much more important? Because the core inflation means inflation without counting the price of the oil and energy. While we know that the main inflation driver right now is the energy price, and if you exclude these numbers, and again the inflation and the price is increasing, it means that the inflation in the market is sticky already, which means how more hawkish policies should be decided. However, looking at the European economic data, we can say that's a weak number. Almost they're more than 1 year, they always had a negative retail sales. I mean, the negative retail sales, the real retail sales. I mean, generally they look, or even in those months that it was not a negative, it was very big. Looking at these numbers, putting these data together, we can say that the European Central Bank, ECB, will not hike the rate, at least in the short term, but we cannot expect them for any dovish policies that or support or anything, because that's what just like what that's what something can hike the inflation much faster, especially in the economy that we can see the growth is negative. Later in United States, we had another surprises, several surprises we had. Let's say about the surprises about the Red Book. Red Book retail sales last week again increased by 9%. That's crazy. That's crazy. Amazing number showing that the US consumers, they are still spending money. They are good in that spending their money compared with this compared with the Japanese that they're scared. Even though they have a good financial situation, they're scared to spend their money. But in America and United States, still they are spending their money. Another surprise was in GLT's numbers. The GLT's almost 1 million job opportunities increased. GLT's from 6.88 million increased to 7.60, almost 2 million. That telling us that the labor market in the United States is great. Now I can say that the great. Okay, let's not say the great. It's good. Okay, at least you can say it's good, and the labor market's doing good. Tomorrow we can have initial claims and continuing claims. We'll see there. I'm again expecting the positive numbers, and the day after tomorrow, Friday, we will have the NFP numbers, which again can tell us much better ideas about ongoing tension, about ongoing situation and the trend in the labor market. Those were the most important numbers. Earlier today, we had the S&P global PMI numbers. Today, we're gonna have and we're gonna have more service PMIs from different economies in Australia. S&P global service PMI increased by 48.7 only, much lower than previous month, 50.70. That's why the composite number also isn't just like the service and manufacturing putting together also fell lower than 50 expansions area, down from 50.40 to 48.70. Yeah, that was slightly better than expectations, but still just like weak number. Earlier today, Australian GDP numbers also continue showing the slightly good numbers, increasing by 2.5%, less than expectation by 2.5% for the first quarter. It sounds like an acceptable number. Then in China, we had a service PMI increase much better than expected from 52.6 increased to 54.4, showing that at least in China also the situation is good in May. And then we had PMI numbers, manufacturing and service together, or composite, and a service number from India. The service indicator also increased from 58.8 to 59.8, same as positive number that we had on Monday on the manufacturing sector. That's why we can see the composite number also increased from 58.2 to 59.3, better than expected, better than previous months, and moving forward in India. Later today, we're going to have the PMI numbers for the service and composite numbers from European economies. We're expecting weaker service PMI and composite number almost in all European economies under 50 expansions area. Unfortunately, for the UK also this time, we are expecting the negative area. However, today in the Eurozone, we should also watch the European PPI numbers. Producer price index expected to increase by 4.8%. Why that's important? I mentioned that several times before, that when you have a PPI higher, it means that producer the price of the production is so high, and producer when they can see these higher numbers, they have nothing to choose than to pass these higher prices to the consumers. So this high number can tell us that this price can go forward, can pass to the consumers, and that should be watched more closely. Don't forget about that looking at these numbers. And later today, in US season, we're gonna have the mortgage rate, 30 years mortgage bond rates or rates for mortgage rates will expected to stay almost unchanged around 6.65%. I don't expect any big surprise here. And what that can tell us, that can tell us that the market still should be more cautious. About the housing market because these higher numbers can put the housing market less affordable, and that's why probably we can see less demand for more mortgage application. As for the service PMI number, again, same as the European in the United States also, I do expect to see slightly weaker and lower number for the service and composite numbers because this is the trend that higher uh, energy prices and especially the jet price can put the pressure on energy market and on the oil prices. So that's something that we can expect from there. And we're gonna have the EIA weekly report. EIA weekly report as what we saw in the as what we saw in the API report. For the EIA weekly report, also I do expect to see slightly more drop in the energy reserves in United States. That can also put the like support actually, not the puts can also support the oil prices. That can be the positive, I mean, for the prices. Also, don't forget, today we're going to have the very important number in the United States as kind of called factory orders, which is expected to increase by 4.6%, even though this number is mostly probably will come from military orders, but still the factories are making more products. So it's going to be the positive for the labor market, for the income, and generally that can be counted as a positive number, even though it's been out that the mostly the factory orders increasing this month because of higher military equipment orders that the government had after ongoing war here. Uh, so yeah, these numbers will be the most important data numbers that we're expecting to be out and published today. And generally, we're kind of the positive about the number that from United States we have. Don't forget in Russia also we're gonna have the retail sales number, which is expected to increase by 2.7% in April, and unemployment rate to stay unchanged at around 2.2%. That's what we can say from the Russian economy as well. And the situation can tell us that we can still be uh positive slightly about the US dollar index. Oil natural with the positive outlook for the gold natural for now for the short term still negative. For the stock market natural maybe slightly negative because of the saving profits. For cryptocurrency still a negative. That's the overall situation that we can see and expect for the markets at least for today. Yep, hope it was useful for you. Talk to you again tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye bye.